In 1968, in the fall, we got a telephone call from the railroad depot in Orland, California. You see, my sister had ordered a record player, and it was going to be delivered that day on the train. She had ordered it from the 1968 Montgomery Ward catalog, and today was the day that it was going to be delivered by train. It was the General Electric Mustang, a suitcase phonograph that was made to be carried to get-togethers at other people's houses or picnics or wherever you felt the need to play records. When we arrived at the depot, the record player was in the caboose, and we went out to where the train was stopped on the tracks, and the railroad conductor handed us the box. And it really is the first time I ever really sat and thought about a caboose, and that every train had one. The conductor more than likely was just trying to be helpful by keeping the record player inside the caboose. He probably thought that such a fragile thing would get broken, rattling around with the endless amounts of mining equipment and farming equipment that was probably being carried in the boxcars in 1968 in Orland, California. Cabooses were required on all freight trains from the creation of the railroads up until the late 1980s. The idea was simple: to have a place for extra mechanics and conductors, railroad crew to ride so that they could do shift changes on the fly, and extra eyes at the end of the train to look for defects or derailed wheels or hot bearings on the wheels, and that is why they were required. Modern trackside detection equipment has eliminated the need for additional crews, which is sad because they were an integral part of trains, and they were something that every train had. The passenger trains didn't have them because they had extra crew members on board that could keep their ears and eyes open for faults during the journey, and they stopped more often. But the freight trains traveling across the United States, across very vast distances between stops, were required to have a caboose. Some were very tiny, others were much larger, with room for mail sorting and to carry very fragile freight. Passenger trains, as I have said before, were not required to have them. This is a very lovely picture that also includes a wigwam burner, which I have talked about in another video. Oh, to go back to the day this photograph was taken, before the era of toxic politics and all of the things that we have going on now. They were quite comfortable inside. Even the seating where a person could look forward or back on the train, the raised area in the cupola, was quite comfortable. They always had a wood stove to warm coffee or tea, and extra sleeping areas so that additional crews could be taken along for the trip. The interior of this caboose was originally done at Hood River, Oregon, and when the caboose was restored, the old mill was found and the old equipment used to mill new lumber to completely redo the caboose as it was the day it was new. Most of these old cabooses today are just sitting along the tracks in the middle of nowhere rotting. Most have been long forgotten and sit in the middle of city parks neglected. This one is along the road in Barstow, California. And this one sits neglected in a park in Illinois. Nowadays, trains have the EOT, the end of train device, which alerts the signals as the train passes that the train has gone by. And it also alerts a train that's coming up behind a train that it is there and prevents accidents. It somehow does not have the nostalgia, though, that a Caboose did, with its friendly waving conductor. I get that we live in a better age with penicillin and my smartphone that I'm addicted to, and computers and all of the things we have now. I get it. But I gotta admit, I do really miss smiling train crews. And I really think that every little kid out there should get handed a 1968 Mustang record player by a train conductor. It was a life-changing experience.